This conference will now be recorded.
I'm sorry. Thank everybody for coming. Welcome to the City of Warrenville Public Safety and Finance Committee meeting of the whole, regular meeting on Monday, July 24th, 2023. All that can, would you please join us for the pledge, roll call first?
Mayor Brummel? Here. Alderman Ashour?
Here.
Alderman Ogdenovich?
Here.
Alderman Berry?
Here.
Alderman Davalos?
Here.
Alderman Kruckenberg?
Here.
Alderman Lockett?
Here.
Alderman Widener?
Here.
Alderman Wilkie?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone that can please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? The next item is public comments, which can wait until the agenda item. You can either speak now or wait until your opportunity when we're talking about something you're interested in. Official and staff comments,
Beginning with the mayor.
beginning with the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A few things. First of all, we had recently a Cerny Park public information meeting about the future of Cerny Park. It was pretty well attended by folks that live in the area and were concerned about what was going to happen in the future. There's an opportunity to get some grant money that we have to match, a $600,000 grant, which would help us along the way of improving Cerny Park. It needs some improvements. There was an active discussion of what those improvements might be. One of the things was to add outdoor pickleball courts, which seems to be the future of sports for most people, or a lot of folks at any rate. There was a little bit of concern about the change in noise compared to tennis and some other sports. If you've listened to pickleball, it's pretty loud. You can hear that ball getting whacked around from quite a distance, so there was some concern about that, although there are ways to mitigate that, I guess. There were concerns about whether or not it was a good idea to continue the horseshoe pits, to invest a bunch of money in improving those. They're lightly used, according to the people that live in the area. They're only used for the most part at the 4th of July, so one of the ideas was perhaps to have temporary pits when they're needed for that, for the competition, for the rest of the time not make that investment, so that was another discussion item. All in all, a good discussion, and the potential there, again, to get some grant money and make improvements is big, and it would be a two-stage thing. We do the city owns, obviously, Cerny Park. The first stage would involve some improvements, and the second stage would involve some additions, part of which is a water feature thing, which is not a water pool, but one of those things where you press a button and it squirts up on the kids' feet and stuff like that. So that might be something that would be very enjoyable. So a lot of good stuff was discussed, and the Park District's going to take a look at that, the results of the meeting, and come back to us with some ideas of how to move forward. Coming up on the 27th at 2 p.m., we're going to have the Prairie Path Trailhead ribbon cutting. Everyone's invited to come to that. I hope you've noticed the huge difference in things across the street from us here. What used to be kind of a tunnel through some scrubby trees is now open space that's inviting for people to stop and appreciate what's going on with the trailhead. That's from 2 to 4 p.m. We have a ribbon cutting at 2:30. Light refreshments will be served. And if you want to come, RSVP to Executive Assistant Don Graffiti via email, or just show up, I guess. Next Monday night, we do not have a council meeting. It's the 5th Monday of the month, so I'm sure we'll all find something else to do. Other responsibilities. National Night Out is coming August 1st at Cerny Park from 5 to 9 p.m. If you have a family, this is really an enjoyable event for families. A lot of good stuff going on. You can get the details on our website, as well as Summer Days, which is coming up August 4th and August 5th, again, right across the street. These are great community events. They're free. Bring your family and stop down. and enjoy visiting with your neighbors. And that's all I have for tonight.
Anyone else? No? Then we will go on with the business of the meeting. Item number 1, which is shown as an informational update on use of non-highway vehicles within the city of Warrenville. I just wanted to comment on that last Tuesday when we got together with myself and Alderman Kruckenberg and staff to talk about the agenda, I had recommended that we consider a work group of myself and one other alderman to consider an ordinance that would allow golf carts that meet all the criteria of what now is known with the state as LSVs, and that we could possibly enhance safety and capture some revenue that would go back to the city instead of the state. And somehow that got changed into an informational update, which was a surprise to me. I thought that council made policy, not staff. Anyway, that's what it's going to be about. And I don't know the way this is done. It kind of went off in a direction that I can tell you my version of what I'm thinking, or I don't know exactly who we should ask about this. I mean, the information's in the backup. The intention, from my perspective, was to involve another alderman, work with staff, create an ordinance again that is similar to the LSV ordinance or the ordinance that the state has, where they license golf carts that are equipped a certain way and have a VIN number, which you'll find that probably most everybody but the governor of our state can't afford. This would give an opportunity for some of us in Warrenville to have a golf cart that would be legal by the same mechanical standards as the LSVs and have local enforcement. All the tickets would be written as ordinance violations. The licensing would be done through the city of Warrenville, and all the revenue would stay here instead of going to the county or the state. And that was the short summary on it. The informational update is available for any of you to see, and I'd be happy to talk to you about it. We do have some, I'm sorry. Chief, would you like to make a presentation?
Okay, good evening. Good evening, residents. Thank you for coming out and being a part of this. This is only informational at this point. The reason for this is because we were asked to make a recommendation on whether we should consider an ordinance in town of having golf carts. The problem is, in general, was that we were using golf carts as a generic term. Golf carts, golf carts, golf carts. But the problem is it's not golf carts in a vacuum. So the informational update tonight was only to educate the aldermen, city council, and the residents of exactly what we're talking about and what the law is currently regarding golf carts. I just want everybody to be informed as to what exactly we're talking about before we move forward into talking about any kind of ordinances that we can incorporate, any kind of money-making thing. We have to understand exactly what we're talking about first. Because part of my concern is not only the safety of this community, but it's also opening up the door to other types of vehicles that fall under the same definition as what we're going to talk about here. So I just want everybody on the same page before we start making recommendations and we start arguing on whether we should have golf carts or not. So that's all this is about, and that's why we had this informational thing tonight. So I just wanted to explain that before we get started, and this turns into some kind of big war about whether we should have golf carts or not. I just want everybody to understand exactly what we're talking about so we're all on the same page, okay? All right. There, down. All right, so first of all, what is a golf cart? Well, typically, a golf cart is typically used to play golf. We transport our clubs on them, and we play golf on them, okay? That's what your typical golf cart is. Everybody in this room probably knows what a golf cart looks like when we talk about a golf cart. However, the traditional golf cart that we typically use for playing golf is considered a non-highway vehicle. And currently, non-highway vehicles are not allowed in the state of Illinois to be driven on roadways. That's your typical traditional golf cart that we're talking about. However, the alternative is a low-speed vehicle. Now, that is a vehicle that may or may not be a golf cart that is allowed on the roadways in Illinois. Okay, so that's the classifications that we have to make. So it's not whether we can allow golf carts or ban golf carts. It's whether we allow non-highway vehicles or low-speed vehicles. The important designation is, for me, is the public safety and enforcing the law. Not about making money. It's not about freedoms or liberties or taking any of those away. It's about making sure that everybody is safe and we're doing this appropriately. That's what my concern is. So when we talk about non-highway vehicles, and I'm sorry, I keep stepping away from the microphone. Currently, they are unlawful, okay? This includes your traditional golf carts. However, after consideration of public safety in our community, that means taking consideration of our roadways, the traffic conditions that we have, how the topography of our community is made of. We have to consider all those factors before we just arbitrarily say golf carts are allowed. So after those considerations, municipality can, by ordinance, allow non-highway vehicles. However, we have to make sure that if that's something that we choose to do, we have to be specific about what type of non-highway vehicles we are allowing. Are we opening the door to any kind of motorized vehicle that anybody wants to ride on the roadway? That's what we have to be careful of, because I could tell you this, from my experience, just being in the town for a little while, I've seen all kinds of vehicles being driven on the roadway, not just golf carts, four-wheelers, go-karts, everything under the sun has been driven. Everybody thinks we have a right to drive those. I want to get around in Warrenville to make sure I get from point A to point B, but my thing is making sure you get there safely and we do this correctly. If they are allowed by ordinance, if we choose to do that, the non-highway vehicle can be operated only on streets where a posted speed limit is 35 miles or less. The operator of the golf cart is required to have a valid driver's license, obviously, which means they have to be over 16. I could tell you I've seen people under 16 driving golf carts in town. The golf cart is required to have insurance, brakes, steering apparatus, rear view mirror, a red reflectors, slow-moving emblem, headlights, taillights, brake lights, turn signals. They're required to have all of those items, and that's only if we allow non-highway vehicle golf carts to be allowed. In case anybody's wondering, this is what a slow-moving emblem looks like on the back of a golf cart. I haven't seen many of those on our golf carts either. When we talk about low-speed vehicles, alternatively, this is lawful currently. So currently, you can drive a low-speed vehicle within the streets of Warrenville. They have to be operated on streets that are 30 miles per hour or less. They cannot cross a street with a speed limit in excess of 45 miles per hour unless that is protected by a traffic light or a four-way stop sign. By ordinance, the city of Warrenville, at its discretion, can prohibit the operation of low-speed vehicles as well. So we can allow non-highway vehicles, or we can choose not to allow any low-speed vehicles at all. Again, that is in the interest of public safety, which is what we have to consider. Surely it's what I have to consider when I'm asked my opinion of what I think we should do. So the difference between a non-highway vehicle and a low-speed vehicle, well, a low-speed vehicle has to have a windshield. It has to have a VIN, a vehicle identification number. It has to have seatbelts. It has to have an exterior rearview mirror. And it has to have a certificate of title and valid registration on it. So that's the difference between a non-highway vehicle and a low-speed vehicle that we're talking about. Again, low-speed vehicles are allowed, non-highway vehicles are not allowed at this point. Now, when we talk about the interests of public safety, we have to take into consideration the characteristics of our roadways. We have 2 state highways that run through town, and we have 6 county roadways that run through town that we do not control. And they zigzag all through town. So that's some of the topography that we have to take into consideration when we think about this. And we also have to consider that non-highway vehicles are not designed for roadway use. The driver has to consider whether they want to share the roadway and trust the other drivers that are in trucks and all other kinds of vehicles to share the roadway with them and trust that they're going to do the right thing. So it's not the operators of the golf carts or low-speed vehicles or non-highway vehicles that I'm concerned about. It's the people in the trucks, in the cars that don't see them or aren't really paying attention that are visitors to Warrenville. In the case of a vehicle accident versus a golf cart, they easily roll over. There's no rollover support, so if they flip over on itself, it's going to crush. There's no side impact support, there's no airbags, and there's no VIN number on those to track those. If there's a vehicle that's involved in an accident and it leaves, how would we identify that vehicle? We can't even identify the vehicle amongst ourselves. We say golf cart, and that's it. But there's a difference between them. And that's all that I wanted everybody to understand is the difference between the low-speed vehicle and the non-highway vehicle before we move on to any further discussions. Thank you. Thank you.
We've got some people that would like to speak to this. Which Guillaume wanted to speak? Tom? Tom Guillaume. Come on up to the microphone, give your name and address.
My name is Tom, and my address is 3S441 Curtis Avenue. I would like to talk about golf carts being allowed on roads because, sometimes they're fun, but they can sometimes be annoying and to other people, but they're fun to, play, go somewhere. It's just fun to have. And you can I know it's a low speed vehicle, but you can have fun. It has no doors like Jeeps and that stuff. You can take off doors from Jeeps. So they're a high speed vehicle, and golf carts are for parents to drive, or you need insurance and that stuff to drive golf carts. So then, like, you have to have lots of fun. Like, when you're a kid, you're probably going to have lots of fun.
Thank you, Tom. Matt Berzak.
Hi, Matt Benazik, 3 South 331 Manning Avenue. Just came to say I hope that the city council would debate on having an ordinance to allow these vehicles. I think one of the great things about Warrenville is that we're very unique. And this is one thing that makes us unique as well, too. So it's an interesting opportunity and completely fine with having rules around it. That's absolutely okay and warranted, but just keep it as an opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Kerschel.
Jeff Krischel, 28 W667 Ray Street. This is a unique view from over here. It's interesting. But no, I would follow up with that and say, two things. One, the low-speed vehicle, which is legal today, right? Chief mentioned that those are available to be driven on the roads today. And the difference between a golf cart, which isn't equipped with this equipment from the factory, however, through other manufacturers that you can get the headlights, you can get the horns, you can get the brake lights. So the only difference really, if you equip that vehicle like an LSV, would be the title and the inability to license or get a license plate for that vehicle. So it's not any less safe, it's not any more accident prone, et cetera. So just something to consider as well. So again, I think as with most things in the city, when it comes to debating things that are unique, I think the city does a great job of putting thought to it, and when they do it correctly and do it right, it's usually successful. So I would hope that the council will be able to put a work group together, come up with an ordinance that makes sense to allow these vehicles. So thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Clark.
Jamie Clark, 3 South 675 Curtis. I read the Hometown Happenings this spring where it laid out the requirements for the vehicles, and my vehicle does not have a VIN number, so I'm unable to get a license plate. The Secretary of State's office very kindly told me that there was nothing that they could do for me, and it would not be allowed to be driven on the road. I'd like the city council to consider an ordinance that would allow us to drive our vehicles that meet the requirements set in the Hometown Happenings this spring, minus the license plate. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who didn't sign up that wants to speak? Come on up and give your name and address.
Tim Gornick, 29W450 Adam Albright Street.
Yeah.
Albright Court, if you ask. Parties here. So similar to many of the other members, I share the opinion that Jamie brings up that without a VIN, you cannot title them, and therefore there's not a whole lot you could do. I understand from Sam's perspective, being the new police chief in town, that he's trying to clear up a gray area, which I don't think he spelled this designation out too clearly, that there is a very gray area in the state of Illinois right now in the portion of enforcement to be able to do much to these vehicles the way that the current law is written without ordinances in the town, and as you explained with the two different designations. I'm strongly of the opinion of not to fix something that's not broke from the citizen's perspective. I think I don't know that there is a single statistic in the state or in the town of Warrenville that there's been accidents or anything happened similar to the statistics that he posted from a retirement community of Florida that probably have much older citizens and lots of other things going on. But if something does need to be done. I am of the strong opinion that even a citizens task force to help mandate and, I know Sam called out in his memorandum that there wasn't a budget put forth in the fiscal year for next year to sell city stickers or do anything of the sort. I'd be happy to volunteer to be the person to sell those at a designated time and place if that's what the city determines was the corrective action. So I strongly am of the opinion and ask you guys to consider to do something to keep our town unique and to allow the small benefits and not allow us to be like some of the neighboring towns that are just heavily regulated and not a lot of fun. But yeah, again, I'm all for responsible regulation, but not over-regulation.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments from the council? Alderman Berry?
After reading through this and listening to the presentation by the chief, we have several different options here. One is to have the city's council establish a work group and where we would draft a local ordinance permitting non-highway vehicles on the streets of the city of Warrenville and develop a program that would require those vehicles to be registered locally. As I read through this, actually non-highway vehicles seem to be the way to go because many of you don't have VIN numbers. So you're not gonna get them, and that's what would be a hindrance. So low-speed vehicles is something that we probably don't want to be interested in, and we want to go with the non-highway vehicles. There are some issues, though, with that because, as the chief said, you have to have brakes, you have to have a steering apparatus, you have to have tires, a rear view mirror, blah, 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 the reflectors on the back. Those are things that you're going to have to do just to protect yourselves and the other people that are driving on the streets. I myself have driven through areas where kids, definitely under the age of having a driver's license, are driving these vehicles, and there's kids hanging off the back of them, and they're weaving down the street, and I'm trying to drive a big car, and, I don't know which way to go, and I don't want to hit them. That's my problem. But it's also their problem, because I don't know where their parents are. Where are their parents? That's what my issue is. I need to have adults be responsible, and this is a way that the work group has to look at to make everyone responsible, the parents, the kids, and the other drivers that are on the street. And also people who are pedestrians, because some of the kids are just driving these vehicles right out into the street, and people are running or biking, and they don't know whether they're going to get hit. So we really need to do something, and we need to have a work group to discuss this, and that's what I'm in. Thank you.
Alderman Widener?
Yes, I just wanted to enter for the record the email that was received regarding this topic. I don't know whether the chair wishes to read it into the record or whether or not you just want to make sure that it gets into the record. But I think we all received email on our city email accounts that address the issue. And I just think that citizens' opinions ought to be considered and included into the minutes.
Would you like to move to enter it into the record?
So moved.
I don't know how you do it, but
So moved.
I have it. I can read it.
sure, go ahead.
This is from Jessica Benazek. Dear City Council, I would like to provide citizen comment regarding golf cart operations on city streets. In the past 2 years, the number of golf carts on city streets has multiplied. There are numerous safety concerns I have. Some vehicles, many of these vehicles are being driven by minors who are not licensed to drive a vehicle. Someone who has not been licensed to drive is ignorant of basic road safety behaviors. Some are not equipped with seat belts, some are not obeying stop signs, etc. I understand that there is currently no city ordinance for the operation of such vehicles. I support efforts to develop a city ordinance that would allow the operation of such vehicles under the following conditions. Vehicles must be equipped with headlights, seat belts, and turn signals. Vehicles can only be operated in residential zones only. Vehicles met only by, must be a typo, may only be operated on city by those who hold a state driver's license. Golf carts may not be driven on city streets by those under 16. Vehicles must be registered by the city. I also have a concern about small golf carts being driven on the roads. While they are surely a source of recreation, the minors who are driving them in the streets are commonly darting between cars, not wearing helmets. The go-karts in particular are very low to the ground, which leads to poor visibility for drivers, especially at dusk, when they are the hardest to see. I would propose an ordinance banning those vehicles from the city streets in their entirety. There may be areas that are not city streets that could be used for driving space. If there aren't, perhaps that sort of space could be developed. Regardless, the vehicles like that should not be operated on city streets. Thank you for your consideration. Jessica Benezak at 3 South 331 Manning Avenue in Warrenville.
Thank you. Any other alderman? Alderman Davalos?
Thank you. I just have a clarifying question. I don't know if this is for the chief, but I'll start with the chief. So this VIN number, do these golf carts, do they have other identifying numbers? I know that maybe the ones that go to the golf courses don't have VIN numbers, or some do if you buy them right from the manufacturer. I don't know all those details, but are there serial numbers, identifying numbers, registration numbers, anything on these carts that, not in lieu of a VIN, but just to start somewhere? Or does that have to be, I don't know. What do you think, or what do you know?
I don't know.
Me either.
I can,
Because I read different things. Whoa, I
hang on,
can't.
guys. The golf carts all have serial numbers.
Okay, they do have serial.
Different look.
That's what okay, so.
We just don't have enough for a VIN number.
Okay. So, Chief, as you were explaining the two vehicles, it looks like that the requirements for the low-speed vehicles, I mean, I sort of like those additions, to be honest, for safety. I like the idea of those. I don't know if people are putting that on their golf courses or whatever, but I like that requirement. But then we run into the VIN number situation, where the no highway vehicles or whatever, you don't have to put so much on there. I don't know. It seems like I'm trying to figure out a starting place and where the discussion should be. It seems, as I've talked to people, that it's this VIN number that's kind of messing everybody up, or some people up. So that if you've purchased it from a manufacturing company and have a VIN, then you're fine. But if you've gone to the secondary market or purchased it on sale or whatever, then you can't drive it, except on a golf course. So I'm interested in looking into that. I'm extraordinarily interested in the safety features, which is why I like what's on the low-speed vehicle. I would also like to take a look at other vehicles, smaller ones that you mentioned, that are on our streets. So I'm personally not opposed to looking at this. I'm hoping to continue to hear more from the public. This was great you all showed up, because we can do our job better when we hear from you. We have things to think about it, we understand what you guys are thinking and what your challenges are, so thank you very much for coming. I think we need to keep talking about it more with input from you, with input obviously from the police and the aldermen, I think are gonna want to talk about this, even if we form a small group to look at it. I think we'll have to figure out a time when we can, like we've done on other things that have been a little controversial, so that aldermen can really understand what they're voting on here. So yes, that's my questions. I just needed to understand this VIN and what the alternatives were, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Alderman Lockett?
Yeah, just looking at it with our different options for consideration, 1, 2, and 3. For me, I agree with the other aldermen. I think we need to establish that work group just to get that information so that we can make educated decisions, look at everything, and take the opportunity to address, not only the non-highway vehicles, but completely rule out one thing or another. Just so that even the police force and everyone has something to refer to, the citizens know what they need, what is required. But I just think that that's the best way. So for me, I would definitely be in favor of the work group.
Anyone else? Just like to make a comment. I've had several discussions with the chief over the past couple months. And I can tell you that when this was suggested, there has been no intention of suggesting anything that would be illegal, that would create any illegal behavior, anything that would be an exception to the state rule for LSVs. I've heard lots of complaints about the bad behavior that we hear about, and that does need to stop. And there is some of that behavior we could identify in our ordinance that would specifically give the police tools to prevent it from happening. By licensing having our own licensing program, we can also list criteria that would remove that license from a golf cart when they're past where they should be. When it shouldn't go on. Pardon me?
I have a comment.
The mayor would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several concerns. Safety being the primary concern, I think Tom did a good job of recognizing that the purpose of these vehicles is fun. I mean, let's be honest, you don't need to drive one of these on the street. It's because it's a lot of fun. I understand that. That makes sense to me. The question is whether it's a good idea to encourage those vehicles to be on our streets. I mean, I grew up in Warrenville. When I was little, we made our own golf carts because we couldn't afford to buy them, and we drove them around, and they were on gravel streets, and it was safe. The traffic was real low. We could do it. There was no police department to say that we couldn't. That was a different world. Today, we're in Warrenville. That's a suburban community. We have a lot of people that come through the community. Their only objective is to get through the community. And to me, the proliferation of carts or vehicles that are not cars or trucks is a real safety concern for the people that are driving those vehicles. So I hope you consider that when you promote this, that do we want to encourage those things on the street? Recently, my wife and I were putting out the Warrenville and Bloom signs and driving around town very slowly in my truck. And I lost track of the number of people who sped by me because I was going too slow in residential neighborhoods. So please understand that the town has changed. The nature of our roads has changed. We have roads that we have no jurisdiction over. We have a short-staffed police department, which is sadly epidemic in the suburbs. We don't have enough officers to do what they're already required to do. Do we want to add additional requirements for them as to which vehicles are legal, who can drive them, what kind of tickets are going to get out, what streets are okay for them to drive on? So I'm just asking you to consider weighing the public safety aspect against the fun aspect. Is it a benefit to the community to allow, fun to take precedence over safety? The other thing is, like everything that is done by the community, it has to be done very, very carefully, because when you start making ordinances, you're putting the community at risk for lawsuits if they're not done properly. Lawsuits are very expensive. Whether you have a good law or not, it can be challenged. So in order to make sure that we're airtight, this has to go to the lawyers. It has to be thought out very, very carefully. It involves a significant amount of time for the staff, for the police department, and for whoever's on the work group. It's not just, okay, we're going to make a rule and everything's going to be fine. As you found out tonight, definitions are a good place to start. What are the definitions? What's going to be allowed? Who's going to be allowed? What streets? And again, we have county roads, we have state roads, we have township roads, and we have Warrenville roads, all in the community. Now, they all intersect. So who's going to police that? And are we going to give that to the police department and say, now, when you see one of these, you're going to have to do something about it, and here are the 12 pages of rules involved. So this is not an easy decision. I appreciate that you're here. I appreciate that you're advocating for something that you see as a community benefit. It could be if it's done properly, but it's not going to be an easy thing. The other thing is we have a work program that the council has already voted on of things that are our priorities. Okay, there's A, B, and C, the top priorities, the middle priorities, and the back burner. Are we going to take this now and put this at the top priorities? Then what are we going to knock off the work program? Because this is, again, going to take a significant amount of time to do. So I would suggest that summer's half gone already. If we're going to take a look at this, let's take time, be deliberate about it, and try to have something ready for next spring when you're going to want to go out again, to make sure that you're legal, you're safe, and there's a relatively simple program that we can monitor to make sure that the safety is the priority. This is not going to be a moneymaker because now if you have a certain fee for a license, now we've got to balance that off with the enforcement end. We're going to have officers who are going to be paid to enforce that. So I suspect that's going to be a zero-sum game. So everyone up here is going to take this seriously, wants to do the right thing. Be patient, let them work on it and see what they come up with. Come back when there's something that's put together. The work group makes good sense, but the work group should first of all determine whether or not is this something we want to do as opposed to just going with the state law as written, which we've done all along. That's already understood by the police department, and it's easy, relatively easy in terms of enforcement as opposed to adding the complications. So the first thing the work group is going to have to say is, do we want to do this? And second of all, if we want to do it, how can we do it so that it's fair to you and it's also a public safety, not a public safety problem? But again, I ask you to think in terms of when you're on the road. I mean, I ride a bike a lot, and I'll tell you what, I've stopped riding on the roads because there are so many distracted drivers, there are people in a hurry, there are angry people. And I really, if I had kids, I wouldn't want to put them out there on the road in some sort of a cart, some sort of off-road vehicle. Stay off the road, have your fun there. That's my perspective. It's up to you, Chair.
Go ahead.
But you have to.
You want, yeah, come on up and. Oh, I'm sorry. No?
I'd like to respectfully ask, while you were being passed by fast drivers in your pickup truck, did you have your hazard lights on?
Yeah, always. They're automatically on. And my turn signal.
Your hazard lights are automatically on?
Yeah, when I turn on the car. And I had my turn signal that I was going slow. Well, they're not that, they're part of the headlight. It's not the headlight.
So when you were-
but they're lights on.
When you were driving extremely slowly through neighborhoods and people were angrily driving around you,
Right.
did you have your hazard lights on?
I had my turn signal on to indicate that I was stopped or slow.
Your turn signal,
Right.
but you
And
weren't
also,
turning.
there are lights when I turn on
Okay.
the ignition, there are lights that come on in the front and back. So it was a lit.
Your
vehicle.
daytime running lights or your parking lights, but not
Yes.
your hazard flashing lights indicating that you are stopped
Oh,
or there's.
so, okay, so yeah, okay. So what I said doesn't mean anything because I didn't have my hazard lights on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mike Divalbus. I'm at 28W445 Town Line Road. First of all, let me just say I don't own a golf cart, but I do own a tractor that I drive the Warrenville wagon to Trinity Lutheran Church twice a year, if you're familiar with that, and feel like that falls under. I own an ATV that'll plow the sidewalk to Bauer for the kids to be able to walk in the sidewalk because the woman has passed away that owns the big part of that sidewalk. But I'm so glad, Mayor Brumley, you said what you did, because I think if we really get to the nitty-gritty of this, is you're right, people are driving fast. And yet, 4 years ago, I brought up the fact that where the majority of kids that walk to Bauer, through Cerny Park there's no stop sign, and people just fly by, and you're worried about driving your truck. And we have, Stu, you could vouch for this, that we have brought up the need for a stop sign at the corner of Warren and Forest View. The pathway, and if you talk to Pam Lowe, who's been a crossing guard for I don't know how many decades here, she has been asking for it. All of the neighbors have petitioned and said yes. And somehow I have brought this up time and time again, and it falls on deaf ears. So I want to make sure that it's heard tonight before someone is actually hurt. We need a stop sign. You guys put one up for VFW. Why, I'm not sure, but I'm fine with it. It slows traffic down. Any of you that live near Warren, you know that it's a raceway. I won't say names, but there are some people in this community that, that certainly have fast cars that abuse that runway there. And sadly, it's a hill that goes down to Cerny Park, and you have kids that ride their bike to school. And I've got a 7-year-old that sometimes forgets to look. And there's a sign that says pedestrian walk. I can, they don't stop. They don't, and someone's gonna get hurt. So I just wanna make sure that this is recorded. Stu, I know you've brought this up. I know Pam has brought this up. God forbid a kid in this community gets hurt, and then we're like, yeah, we probably should have done a stop sign. But you're absolutely right.
Just-
The issue is people driving fast. Okay, that is a big issue. Golf carts, I agree, we need to have regulations in a way that this is a small town. It's why people love coming here. Let's not forget that, right? That doesn't mean we need to do what Naperville and Wheaton have done because they're different cities. But I do think we do need to have some kind of ordinance that educates the people of the city and those that are driving the vehicles so that we are all safe.
Just a comment, I think we've finally got you your stop sign. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I think we've got it approved, and you will see that in the near future.
Fantastic.
How about that?
I appreciate that, Stuart. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Allison Guyomi. My address is 3S441 Curtis Avenue. My first comment is I can't believe you took what my son said and turned it around on him and the golf cart issue. I think you must misinterpret what fun means. Fun isn't necessarily doing things the wrong way or being unsafe. Sometimes fun means just having fun, doing things the right way, sitting on a golf court with somebody who's licensed to drive it, and just being a kid, getting picked up from school or going to school. And I agree too. There does need to be regulations, definitely. But in response to the VIN number, it's also if you purchase one before a certain year, it wouldn't have come with a VIN number, but have had all of the necessary things for it to be legal. So that's all.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
Joanne Veit, 29 West 450 Albright Street. You said you were going to discuss the issue of the golf cart or LSV, or however you want to put it. Do any of you own a golf cart or that type of vehicle on the panel? That will be just, Stu, you do, okay. I just wanted to make sure there was a representative that was discussing the issue, because you said you wanted it to be fair, and I think in all fairness, someone that had one of those types of vehicles should be in that discussion.
Okay, everybody in the audience done? We can move on. Do I have a motion from any alderman? Oh, I'm sorry, Alderman Davalos?
Yeah, I just want to make one final comment or observation. It seems to me, from what the chief said, that the low-speed vehicles, as long as you have a VIN number, you can be driving them right now, right? Is that correct? If you're following the state law and you have a VIN number, then we can't prevent that. I mean, that's already state law, and so those vehicles are out there. From discussing things with people and looking up a few things, the sticking point is if your vehicle has what you guys said, the serial number, but no VIN. So you can't get a license plate. So to me, there's an issue there that we have to come to grips with, because we can't vote to say there's no golf carts, because we can't do that. So we have to deal with the carts that are going to be on the road and what those rules should be, and the licensing and all the things that we have already talked about. So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think there's communities, I mean, somebody sent me some information and I looked up more. There are quite a few communities in Illinois that have very well-researched and thought-out regulations about golf carts. And so I think I would say to the group, if we, I mean, I know we can't vote tonight, but if we could, probably we'd vote at the city council meeting, that work group would look into some of those things, and they probably would. But there is some good information out there. Whether that would apply to our unique community or not, I don't know, but we can discern that. And I also just think we have to figure it out. And we have to be safe, but on both of the vacations I took this year, one to Arizona and one to Missouri, I drove around in the area of the communities I was in a golf cart. And it wasn't on highways, it wasn't on big streets, so, but people are doing that all over the place for a lot of reasons. And I think some of it's not just to have fun, some of it's just to get back and forth without taking your car out there. And sometimes you have elderly people that love going to golf course, and I just think there's lots of reasons, so I think we have to deal with it. And we have to, because I have a lot of unanswered questions still. Really good tonight, though. I thank you, Chief, for your presentation, and thank you for the comments, because I know much more now than I did when I walked in tonight, so thank you. But I don't think we can just not talk seriously about it. And I do respect what the mayor, and he's right about the timing here and putting work onto staff, that we do operate by work plans. And things need to get put on a work plan so that staff then has time and organizes themselves to be ready to go to work on something. And people have brought that stuff forward, and the staff is really good on it, but it's very difficult to just stick something in a week and then we have a solution. So I like this idea of researching it a little bit, trying to figure it out, and then fitting it into a work plan, because we're going to have to make a decision one way or the other. Thanks.
Alderman Berry?
Thank you, everybody, for all your comments. They're very good to know, and it's good that everybody sees them and hears them. Hopefully, people will watch Channel 10 and see all that, or go on YouTube. But I would like to make a motion to recommend the City Council establish a working group to draft a local ordinance permitting non-highway vehicles on City of Warrenville streets, and develop a program that would require those vehicles to be registered locally.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Alderman Davalos?
Yeah, I just want to make sure legally that we can do this, since it's for information meeting only. Can we go ahead and make a motion vote? Okay.
There's no final action being taken, so it's just a
Okay, fine, thanks.
direction.
We're not creating an ordinance.
We're spending money.
We're spending money. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come out. I know you didn't get up thinking that Monday night was going to be your best time spent here. So thank you for participating in government, and for all those that spoke, thank you. We only have a few more items if you want to stay and watch Government in Action. We have a very special item as second to the last about an award in excellence for financial reporting, which is very important. Just wanted to make sure everybody knows about that. Thank you. Okay, item number 2, consideration of a request to dispose of surplus property. Chief?
Good evening again. The police department has accumulated a number of decommissioned or out-of-service mobile radar units through the practice of replacing our squad cars. So every time we get a new squad car, we get new equipment. We take the out-of-service equipment or non-functional equipment out of it for replacement. We haven't had an opportunity to get rid of that, so we've found a local person, Radar Man Inc., who offered us a credit back for the used radar units in the amount of $1,200. So we're requesting the council the ability to dispose of those properly.
Sure, go ahead. To the mic. You're on the record.
Tim Gornick, 29 West 450 Adam Albright Street. I'd just like to ask if it's been considered to donating them to some local community in the need of DuPage campus police or anything like that, if it's been considered.
I don't know if we've looked into maybe donating them, but they're either out of service or non-functional. So
Curious of that.
they wouldn't be any good to anybody anyway, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Alderman? No comments? Alderman Lockett?
I'd like to recommend City Council approve an ordinance authorizing the disposal of city-owned surplus property through a sale to Radar Man, Inc. in the amount of $1,200 to be applied as an account credit with said vendor in the equal amount.
No, go ahead. You.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, consideration of an ordinance amending Title 3, Chapter 26, Section 3-26-2, Parent C, massage establishment business license requirement, number of licenses and fees. Chief?
Yes, sir. In 2018, the city council passed an ordinance increasing the non-refundable massage license application from $35 to $1,000. Recently, it had come to the staff's attention, asking us to look into the amount that we do charge for a license. And through our own audit process of analyzing this, the average time spent on conducting background investigations and the detective salaries to perform these backgrounds, we offered that it would be more feasible to charge $500 versus $1,000 for these licensing backgrounds.
Thank you. Any questions? Alderman Lockett?
I'm assuming this was in response to the young lady that was here prior, asking for the city to take a look at it?
Yes, sir.
That's great, because it always, we know why it went from what it did, if anybody wants to look up the history. But for us to go back, reevaluate, take a look at something and potentially help another small business come into town to help them make that happen. So it's just really nice to see. And if there's no other comments, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend City Council approve an ordinance amending Title 3, Chapter 26, Section 2, Parenthesis C of the City Code, massage establishment business license required, number of licenses, fees as illustrated through language strikeouts and inserts.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4, consideration of a request to dispose of IT-related items using eScrap Technologies Incorporated.
Thank you. Enclosed with your agenda backup material is a draft ordinance requesting authorization to dispose and recycle of IT surplus equipment. The list includes items that have been replaced and upgraded, and it also includes items that have reached its end of life and are no longer in service. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman? No questions. Do we have a motion? Alderman Lockett?
I'd like to make a motion, City Council approve an ordinance approving the disposal of surplus personal property owned by the City of Warrenville.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5, this is kind of near and dear to anybody that's been on the council. While we have the wonderful opportunity to recognize the GFOA Award of Achievement to our Finance Department. And when we were talking about it at the meeting, the great thing is we've come to expect this, which is huge. To think that our Finance Department it gets that level of kudos. I couldn't be prouder of what you have accomplished, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to take this chance to indicate to the community and the council that we have received our 30th consecutive Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. It's a little exciting for me because now I've been here for more than half of them. So that's been very, very enjoyable. And we could not do what we do without the support of the council, the support of the remainder of the staff to make sure that we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing, and the excellent relationships we've had with our auditing firms over the years. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it's our 30th year, and we'll continue to keep doing that.
The mayor has a comment.
I echo the chairman's comments. Thank you, Kevin, for your outstanding record. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole impetus of the award is to recognize that the community does everything by the book that they're required to do legally in our financial dealings perfectly, with no reservations, and we've done that for 30 years straight. So we follow the rules that are provided for us impeccably. Is that correct?
Yes, the goal of this is to show that we are doing the highest amount, or the highest excellence in reporting that we can achieve, and we've done that annually. It started before I got here, and we've continued to maintain that, and we'll continue to do that as long as I'm here, and I'm sure that'll happen long after I'm gone too. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are all crossed. But we make sure we get that done.
Good, and your part of the team is to make sure that when we spend money up here, we do it properly and it's done according to Hoyle. And the decision on how the money is spent is made up here, so if you're upset about that, you have to talk to the alderman. But we do it properly, that's the key. There's no secrecy, it's transparent, and it's done by the rules.
All we do is our best to record how you spend it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Berry?
Thank you. I just want to thank Kevin and his team. They've done this every year since I've been here, since 2005, and it's pretty amazing that they can accomplish this with the small staff that they have, and they still do this excellent financial reporting, which is just amazing because the staff is so small, but we do the highest level, and we don't make excuses. You do it, and you do it well. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Item number 6, informational update on administration, finance, and police department fiscal year 2024 work plans and decision packages. Anyone have any questions? We're good? Just a comment on it, I'll make it under miscellaneous. I would like the opportunity to serve on the work group just because I have put a lot of time in. I have an accumulation of ordinances about 2 inches tall, understand the state law, and I would be honored if the council would let me do that. Comments, criticisms? Alderman Lockett?
I would also like to volunteer if we're doing that now for that work group.
Just stop by doing it now, we wouldn't have to do it at the council meeting. Could it already be part of the motion when it comes? You have your volunteers? I'm sorry.
I think it still would need to be approved
Okay.
formally by the council just because there needs to be a motion and it's not on this agenda.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. We have one more motion that we need. Alderman Lockett.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you all.
This conference is no longer being recorded.